Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the swirling vortex of light that had suddenly appeared in her laboratory, her coffee mug slipping from nerveless fingers to shatter on the floor. The experimental quantum resonance chamber wasn't supposed to do this. It was just a proof-of-concept device, designed to demonstrate stable quantum entanglement at room temperature. But something had gone wrong, or perhaps terribly right. The last thing she remembered was reaching for the emergency shutdown switch. Now she found herself standing in an alien forest clearing, her lab coat still smoking slightly from the transition. The purple-leaf trees towered hundreds of meters into a pale orange sky, where two moons hung like watchful eyes. "Well," she muttered, patting down her pockets to inventory her resources, "at least I had my tablet in my coat." The device was intact, along with her multi-tool and the quantum resonance scanner she'd been calibrating. Not much to work with, but better than nothing. A distant explosion shattered the alien silence, followed by screams that sounded disturbingly human. Sarah's scientific curiosity warred briefly with her survival instincts before losing badly. She found herself running toward the commotion, her tablet recording everything through its various sensors. The scene that greeted her stopped her dead in her tracks. A village that looked like something out of a medieval fantasy game was under attack. But the attackers weren't human, or even remotely Earth-like. Hovering vessels of gleaming metal rained down beams of energy that reduced stone buildings to slag, while bipedal figures in sleek armor methodically rounded up the villagers, who, to Sarah's amazement, appeared to be various species she could only describe as fantasy races. A group of what appeared to be elves, actual pointed-ear elves, were attempting to fight back with bows and magical attacks that sparked harmlessly against energy shields. Their defensive position was about to be overrun. Sarah's hand tightened around her tablet. The quantum scanner was picking up fascinating readings from both the attacker's technology and the defender's magic. More importantly, she recognized the basic principles behind the invaders' energy shields. They were using a form of quantum field manipulation, not entirely dissimilar to her own research. "Hey," she shouted, fingers flying across her tablet's interface. "Over here, you oversized chrome doorstops." The nearest armored figure turned, its featureless helmet regarding her with what she hoped was confusion. Sarah's tablet emitted a high-pitched whine as she reversed the polarity of her quantum scanner, turning it into a crude but effective disruptor. The alien's shield flickered and died. An elven arrow immediately found its way through the gap in its armor at the neck joint. The creature fell with a distinctly mechanical clatter. "Their shields are vulnerable to quantum interference at 4.3 gigahertz, Sarah shouted to the defenders. "And they're robots, not living beings." The elven archers didn't seem to understand most of what she'd said, but they definitely grasped the part about their enemies being vulnerable. Their next volley dropped 3 more attackers before the remaining robots retreated to their vessels, which quickly disappeared into the orange sky. That was incredible magic. A young elven woman approached Sarah, bow still in hand. "I've never seen anything like it. Are you a mage from the Eastern Kingdoms?" Sarah looked at her tablet, then at the smoking remains of the robotic attackers, and finally at the grateful faces of the villagers emerging from hiding. Her mind was already racing with possibilities. These people had magic but medieval technology. The attackers had advanced technology, but seemed to be automated forces rather than living beings. And she had modern engineering knowledge that might just bridge the gap between the two. "No," she replied slowly, a plan beginning to form. "I'm an engineer from Earth, and I think I might be able to help you with your robot problem. But I'm going to need some resources. Tell me, do you have any metallurgists or craftsmen in this village?" The elf nodded eagerly. "The finest dwarven smiths in the province live here. We trade protection for their craftsmanship." Sarah smiled, already mentally designing assembly lines and manufacturing processes that could work with medieval tools. "Perfect, because what we need is a factory, and I'm going to teach you how to build one." The gathered villagers looked confused at the unfamiliar word, but Sarah could see curiosity and hope in their eyes. She pulled up a blank document on her tablet and began sketching designs. She had no idea how she'd gotten here or if she'd ever get home. But one thing was certain. She was going to give these people a fighting chance. And maybe, just maybe, revolutionize an entire world in the process. First, she said, we need to talk about standardization and the concept of interchangeable parts. Trust me, this is going to change everything. As the sun set behind the purple forest, casting long shadows across the village square, Sarah began teaching the first class in what would become known as the Great Industrial Revolution of the Five Kingdoms. The age of magic was about to meet the age of science, and nothing would ever be the same. 3 months had transformed the village of Ironhaven beyond recognition. Where once stood a simple smithing district now rose the first modern factory in the history of this world. The constant rhythm of hammers had been replaced by the steady hum of water-powered machinery, designed by Sarah and built by the eager hands of dwarven craftsmen who had taken to her ideas with unprecedented enthusiasm. The beauty of the assembly line, Sarah explained to Grimmond, the master smith who had become her most dedicated student, is that it lets us make complex things quickly and consistently. She gestured to the rows of workers, each focused on a specific task in the production of standardized components. Grimmond stroked his beard thoughtfully, watching as identical gears emerged from the production line. Though I must admit, when you first spoke of having different craftsmen make only parts of a whole, I thought you mad. Now I see the wisdom in it. The factory floor below them was a carefully orchestrated dance of humans, dwarves, and elves working in harmony. Each station had been designed to accommodate workers of different heights and builds, another innovation that had initially raised eyebrows, but quickly proved its worth. Master Chen, a young dwarf, came running up the stairs to the observation platform, nearly tripping over his own beard in excitement. The enchantment team has succeeded. The crystalline matrices are accepting the standardized mounting brackets. Sarah grinned. This had been one of their biggest challenges, finding a way to mass-produce holders for the magical crystals that powered much of this world's traditional technology. The solution had come from combining dwarven metallurgy with elven crystal-growing techniques and her own knowledge of precision manufacturing. Excellent. Now we can begin phase 2. She pulled out her tablet, its battery long since drained, but its screen protected by a layer of magically enhanced glass, another successful fusion of Earth technology and local materials. The device now served as her engineering notebook, its surface enchanted to display her carefully preserved digital blueprints. The defensive turrets? Grimmond asked, his expression growing serious. The robot raiders had attacked 3 more villages in the past month, each time with larger forces. Yes, but more importantly, the power distribution network. Sarah pointed to the complex diagrams she'd drawn. If we can successfully combine your world's magical energy crystals with standardized mounting and distribution systems, we can create a power grid. Imagine being able to share magical energy across entire kingdoms, storing it where it's abundant and sending it where it's needed. A commotion at the factory entrance drew their attention. Lysandra, the elven archer who had first welcomed Sarah to the village, was leading a group of visitors. Their fine clothes and ceremonial guards marked them as nobility. The delegation from the High Kingdom, Grimmond muttered. Right on time. Sarah straightened her work apron, now decorated with both Earth engineering symbols and dwarven runes of crafting. The past months had taught her the importance of respecting local traditions while introducing new ideas. These nobles needed to see both the practical benefits of industrialization and how it could coexist with their magical society. Master Chen, the lead noble, spoke, his pointed ears twitching slightly at the unfamiliar sounds of the factory. We have received reports of your innovations. Some find them concerning. Understandable, Sarah replied diplomatically. Change often is. Perhaps you'd like to see what we've achieved here. I find that seeing the results firsthand tends to address many concerns. As she led the delegation through the factory floor, Sarah couldn't help but smile at their gradually shifting expressions, from skepticism to curiosity to barely concealed excitement. She showed them the quality control stations, where enchanted measuring tools guaranteed precision that handcrafting could never achieve. She demonstrated how standardized parts meant repairs could be done quickly and reliably, crucial for the coming conflict. And this, she said, reaching the prototype display area, is what happens when we combine your world's magic with Earth's industrial principles. The nobles gasped as she activated the defensive turret prototype. It hummed to life, magical energy flowing through standardized conduits. The targeting system, a blend of enchanted crystals and mechanical components, tracked movement with inhuman precision. The robot raiders use quantum field manipulation for their shields, Sarah explained. But thanks to our dwarf-elf collaboration on crystalline matrix enhancement, we've developed a way to bypass those defenses. And because of our new manufacturing processes, we can produce these in numbers large enough to defend not just villages, but entire kingdoms. The lead noble stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the turret. How long would it take to outfit our capital's defenses with these? With our current production capacity, a month. But if you approve the expansion plans I've drawn up, Sarah spread out a blueprint showing a massive industrial complex. We could do it in a week, and that's just the beginning. As the delegation huddled together in excited discussion, Grimmond leaned close to Sarah. You've done it, lass. They're convinced. Sarah watched the nobles, already arguing over which kingdoms would get priority access to the new technologies. No, my friend. We've done it. This is just the foundation. Wait until they see what's next. In her mind, she was already designing the next phase. Powered armor suits that could enhance magical abilities, enchanted communication networks, and devices that could detect interdimensional portals like the one that had brought her here. The robot raiders had no idea what was coming. Neither did this world. But unlike the raiders, it was going to love the changes ahead. The warning bells rang across Ironhaven just before dawn. Sarah was already awake, making final adjustments to the command center's monitoring array when the first reports came in. The robot raiders had returned, but this time was different. This time they had brought an army. Multiple portal signatures detected, reported Lysandra, her hands dancing over the crystal-powered sensor console Sarah had designed. They're emerging in a standard grid pattern, covering all approach vectors to the valley. Sarah nodded, watching as magical holograms displayed the tactical situation. Dozens of enemy vessels were appearing through dimensional rifts, each larger than any they'd seen before. The raiders had clearly decided that Ironhaven's growing industrial capability warranted a full-scale response. Just as we predicted, Sarah said, activating the facility's communication network, another fusion of Earth technology and local magic. All defensive positions. This is control. Execute Protocol Thunderstrike. Across the valley, concealed turrets powered up, their magical cores humming with stored energy. The past months of preparation were about to be put to the ultimate test. Enemy forces advancing. Grimmond reported from his station. Ground units deploying. By the Forge Father's hammer, there must be thousands of them. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Good thing we've been busy then. Lysandra, signal the outer defensive ring. Let's show them what happens when you combine magic with mass production. The first wave of robot raiders marched forward with mechanical precision, their energy shields glowing in the pre-dawn light. They reached the halfway point of the valley before the trap was sprung. Hidden emplacements unveiled themselves, revealing rows of enchanted artillery pieces that had been Sarah's first major production project. They fired in perfect synchronization, launching shells that combined dwarven explosives with magically enhanced fragmentation patterns. The raiders' shields, designed to stop energy weapons and magical attacks, proved surprisingly vulnerable to good old-fashioned kinetic bombardment enhanced by precise magical targeting. Entire squadrons of robots were reduced to scattered parts. Direct hits on multiple formations, Lysandra called out. Enemy forces regrouping, Wait, they're deploying something new. Massive walkers emerged from the enemy vessels, each standing 3 stories tall. They fired devastating energy beams that began systematically destroying the defensive emplacements. Initiate Phase 2, Sarah ordered, her fingers flying across her control panel. All Sentinel units, engage. From concealed bunkers around the valley rose Ironhaven's newest defenders. Powered armor suits, built in Sarah's factories and enhanced with magical crystals, charged into battle. Each suit was piloted by a trained warrior, their natural combat skills amplified by technology that responded to thought and enhanced by magic that flowed through precisely engineered channels. The robot raiders found themselves facing opponents that could match their mobility and firepower. The walkers turned to engage the new threat, but their targeting systems struggled to lock onto targets that combined technological and magical signatures in ways their programming had never encountered. "They're confused," Sarah observed, watching the tactical display. "Their combat algorithms can't properly categorize our hybrid technology." Grimmond signaled the Runeforge batteries to begin their attack runs. Flying platforms, their levitation powered by a combination of enchanted crystals and magnetic repulsion systems, rose from behind the mountain peaks. Each carried a heavy weapon that Sarah had designed based on her quantum resonance research, weaponizing the same principles that had brought her to this world. The batteries fired in sequence, sending pulses of quantum-disrupting energy through the battlefield. Robot raiders began to fall as their internal systems failed, their advanced technology proving vulnerable to attacks that targeted the very fabric of their quantum-based processors. Enemy forces retreating to their vessels, Lysandra reported, excitement clear in her voice. Portal signatures detected. They're withdrawing. The command center erupted in cheers as they watched the robot raiders make a hasty retreat through their dimensional portals. Sarah allowed herself to join in the celebration for a moment before returning to her console. "Begin recovery operations immediately," she ordered. "I want every piece of destroyed raider technology collected and analyzed. Their retreat gives us valuable data about their capabilities and limitations." As the sun rose over the battlefield, Sarah surveyed the aftermath through the command center's windows. The valley floor was littered with the remains of robot raiders, but Ironhaven stood unscathed. More importantly, they had proven that their hybrid technology could not only match but exceed the raiders' capabilities. "What do you think they'll do next?" Grimmond asked, joining her at the window. "They'll be back," Sarah replied, already making notes on her enchanted tablet, "with new tactics and upgraded technology. But now they know we can hurt them, and that changes everything." She turned to face her friend and colleague. "We need to expand production immediately. Not just here, but in every allied kingdom. The raiders will analyze their defeat and adapt. We need to be ready when they return." "And we will be," Lysandra added, approaching with a stack of preliminary battle reports. "The other kingdoms' representatives are already requesting emergency meetings to discuss accelerating their industrial development programs." Sarah nodded, her mind already working on improvements to their designs. The raiders had shown new capabilities in this battle, and she had dozens of ideas about how to counter them. More importantly, she had seen how effectively their hybrid technology had performed in actual combat. "Tell the development teams to meet me in the prototype lab in 1 hour," she said. "We're going to start working on Mark IA versions of everything. And this time, we're not just building defenses." She pulled up the schematics she'd been working on in secret, designs for ships that could follow the raiders through their dimensional portals. It was time to take the fight to them. "They thought they could intimidate us with a show of force," she said quietly. "Instead, they've just given us a perfect combat test of our capabilities and shown us exactly what we need to improve." The first major battle was over. The real war was about to begin. The prototype lab had become Sarah's second home in the weeks following the battle. Scattered pieces of salvaged raider technology covered every workbench, each component being methodically studied and reverse-engineered. But today's breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. "Watch this," said Aetherwing, a young elf mage who had recently joined the research team. She held up what appeared to be a standard power crystal, but as she channeled energy through it, the crystal's glow shifted through impossible colors. "We've modified the lattice structure using your quantum resonance principles." Sarah's eyes widened as she checked the readings on her instruments. "The efficiency increase is incredible. How did you manage to stabilize the crystal matrix at these energy levels?" "That's the beautiful part," Grimond interjected, pointing to microscopic runes etched into the crystal surface. "Traditional dwarven runecraft, but applied using your precision manufacturing techniques. The runes reinforce the quantum states you theorized about." Sarah sat back, her mind racing with possibilities. They had just solved one of their biggest limitations: power generation. With crystals this efficient, they could build larger, more powerful devices, maybe even. An alarm blared through the facility. "Dr. Chen to the command center immediately." Lysandra's voice came through the communication system. "We're detecting unusual portal activities." The command center was a hive of activity when Sarah arrived. The tactical display showed dozens of anomalous readings scattered across the kingdoms. "They're not attacking," Lysandra reported, her fingers dancing across her console. "These portals are different, smaller, more stable. And look at these energy signatures." Sarah studied the readings, her expression growing grave. "They're surveillance devices. The raiders are mapping our defenses, studying our technology." She straightened up, decision made. "Which means we don't have much time. Initiate Project Stormbreaker." The project had been her most ambitious plan yet, a massive undertaking that would link all the allied kingdoms' industrial and magical resources into a single coordinated defense network. Until now, she had hesitated to propose it, knowing the political complications it would cause. But they no longer had that luxury. Within hours, representatives from all 5 kingdoms had assembled in Ironhaven's Grand Hall, now converted into a war room. Sarah stood before them, her enchanted tablet projecting images into the air. "The raiders are preparing for something big," she began. "But thanks to our recent breakthrough in crystal technology, we can be ready for them. What I'm proposing is unprecedented, a unified defensive grid that will cover all our territories." She gestured, and the projection showed a vast network of interconnected fortifications and power distribution systems. Each kingdom's unique magical traditions will be preserved and enhanced. Dwarven runes will strengthen elven enchantments. Human adaptability will complement magical automation. Everything built on standardized platforms that can be quickly repaired and upgraded. The room erupted in discussion, but Sarah wasn't finished. She brought up another image, the designs for her dimensional ships. "And then we take the fight to them." The next month was a blur of activity. Factories across all 5 kingdoms worked around the clock, producing components that were transported through newly established portal networks. Sarah's standardized manufacturing processes allowed facilities thousands of miles apart to create parts that fit together perfectly. The first test of the unified defense grid came sooner than expected. A massive raider force emerged near the elven capital, clearly expecting to find it as vulnerable as before. Instead, they found their portal immediately detected and their forces engaged by coordinated defensive systems from all 5 kingdoms. Sarah watched from the new central command facility as magic and technology worked in perfect harmony. Elven forecasting magic enhanced targeting systems. Dwarven runic arrays amplified power distribution. Human-designed automation coordinated everything with split-second precision. The raiders lasted less than an hour. "They didn't expect us to advance this quickly," Grimond observed as they watched the enemy forces retreat. "Your world must be very different, to think of combining things in such ways." Sarah nodded, but her attention was on the data streaming in from the battle. "Look at these readings. They're portal technology. I think I see how they're doing it. If we combine the new crystal matrices with quantum field manipulation." She trailed off, already sketching new designs on her tablet. The first dimensional ship was nearly complete in the underground facility beneath Ironhaven. With these new insights, they might be able to track the raiders back to their point of origin. How long until the ship is ready? Lysander asked, seemingly reading her thoughts. 2 weeks for the final assembly, Sarah replied. But first, we need to upgrade the power systems with the new crystals. And I want to install something special in the weapons arrays. She pulled up the design she'd been working on in her spare time. A hybrid weapon that combined all the principles they'd discovered. Quantum disruption, enhanced by magical resonance, delivered through dwarven runic matrices, all powered by their new crystal technology. They think they know what we're capable of, she said, a determined smile crossing her face. They have no idea what humanity can do when we really start innovating. The raiders had started this conflict expecting to find primitive worlds ripe for conquest. Instead, they had sparked a technological revolution unlike anything either Earth or this magical realm had seen before. And soon, very soon, they would learn the true cost of underestimating human ingenuity. As the sun set over Ironhaven's ever-growing industrial complex, Sarah looked out at the rows of dimensional ships under construction. Somewhere out there, the raiders were probably preparing their own countermeasures, building bigger and more powerful weapons. But for the first time, she wasn't worried. After all, humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to take ideas from different sources and combine them in ways no one had ever imagined. And now, with the combined knowledge of Earth science and this world's magic at their disposal, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The dimensional ship Breakthrough hung in the void between worlds, its hybrid engines humming with the combined power of science and magic. Sarah stood on the bridge, surrounded by a crew that represented all 5 kingdoms, and perhaps the greatest achievement of her time in this world. True cooperation across all species and cultures. Portal signature detected, reported Lysandra from her sensor station. Energy patterns matched the raiders' primary base of operations. Sarah nodded, checking the readings on her command console. After months of tracking the raiders through dimensional space, they had finally found their home base. The massive structure floating before them was a technological marvel, a space station that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Multiple hostile craft launching, Grimmond announced from Tactical. They're not the automated units we faced before. These are different. The tactical display showed dozens of ships emerging from the station, their design more organic than the robot raiders they'd fought before. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she studied the readings. Those are the actual raiders, she said quietly. The robots were just their proxies, testing our defenses. This is their real military force. The enemy ships moved with fluid grace, their technology clearly far advanced beyond even the robotic forces they'd faced. But Sarah smiled. She'd been counting on this. All ships, execute formation Delta, she ordered. Their fleet of 12 dimensional ships moved into position, their crews ready for the battle they'd trained months for. Deploy the resonance field. The new defensive system she'd designed activated, creating a quantum field enhanced by magical harmonics. The raiders' first volley of energy weapons dissipated harmlessly against it. Return fire, all batteries, Sarah commanded. Show them what humanity's legacy to this world can do. The hybrid weapons they'd developed opened fire. Quantum disruption beams, enhanced by elven magic and focused through dwarven runic arrays, lanced out at the enemy fleet. The raiders' shields, designed to handle either technological or magical attacks, proved vulnerable to weapons that were both simultaneously. Direct hits on multiple vessels, Grimmond reported with satisfaction. Their shields are failing. Wait, they're adapting. The raider ships shifted formation, their hulls glowing with strange energy. Their next attack came not through conventional weapons, but through reality itself, trying to shift Sarah's fleet into a dimension where their technology wouldn't function. But Sarah had anticipated this too. Activate the anchor crystals. Throughout the fleet, the new crystal matrices they'd developed pulsed with power. The modified quantum lattices, stabilized by microscopic runic arrays, kept their ships firmly anchored in normal space while channeling the dimensional energy back at the raiders. "They're trying to communicate," Lysandra announced suddenly. "We're receiving a transmission." The bridge's main display activated, showing what appeared to be a crystalline being. Its form shifted and flowed, beautiful but alien. "You are not what we expected," the being said, its words translated by their systems. "We detected dimensional technology developing on your world, but this is unprecedented." "That's humanity for you," Sarah replied, standing tall. "We adapt. We learn. We combine ideas in ways no one else thinks to try. And we protect those who stand with us. We have conquered 1,000 worlds," the being stated. "None have ever combined technology and magic as you have. None have unified different species so effectively." "Then maybe it's time to try something different," Sarah suggested. "We've proven we can fight you effectively. But I'm offering an alternative: cooperation instead of conquest. Think what we could achieve together instead of against each other." There was a long pause. The crystalline being seemed to shimmer as it considered her words. "You would share your innovations?" it asked finally. "Under the right conditions," Sarah answered. "A peaceful exchange of knowledge. No more raids, no more proxy wars. Real cooperation." The being's form stabilized, taking on a more defined shape. "We accept. Your humanity intrigues us. Perhaps there is more to learn from cooperation than conquest." In the months that followed, the Alliance transformed both worlds. The Raiders, who called themselves the Crystalline Collective, shared their advanced dimensional technology. In return, Sarah and her team taught them how to blend different forms of knowledge and energy in ways they had never imagined. Ironhaven grew into a center of interdimensional learning and trade. The factories Sarah had built now produced tools of exploration and creation, rather than weapons of war. Students from dozens of worlds came to study the art of combining magic, technology, and different cultural approaches to problem-solving. 1 year to the day after the final battle, Sarah stood in her lab, making adjustments to a new quantum resonance chamber. This one, she hoped, might finally help her understand how she had been brought to this world in the first place. "Do you ever regret it?" Lysandra asked, helping her calibrate the crystals. "Not finding a way back to Earth sooner?" Sarah looked around at what they had built, at the legacy of human ingenuity and adaptability she had helped create in this world. Through the window, she could see ships from multiple dimensions docked at Ironhaven's new port, their crews mingling freely in the streets below. "No," she said finally. "Sometimes the greatest human achievement isn't in conquering or dominating, but in showing others how to work together, in teaching them to see problems differently and imagine new solutions." She adjusted the final crystal in the chamber, its glow illuminating her face. "Besides, we're not done innovating yet. Not even close." The chamber hummed to life, its energy patterns dancing across her instruments. Sarah smiled, already seeing new possibilities in the readings. Humanity had given this world a gift: the ability to see beyond traditional boundaries and imagine new possibilities. And that, she knew, was just the beginning. In the end, humanity's greatest legacy wasn't in the weapons they'd built or the battles they'd won. It was in teaching others that the most powerful force in any universe was the ability to learn, adapt, and work together. And that was a lesson worth crossing dimensions to deliver.